Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I am talking to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started, and what are they doing to continue to accelerate? And today, I have a very special guest, my good friend, Camille Tate. Camille Tate is the manager of talent acquisition at the Beck Group in Dallas, Texas. And I have not, it seems like it's been about 3 months since you gave me a tour of your new facility. And so I'm so excited to see you and have you on the show, Camille.
Thank you so much for having me, Bruce. It's good to see you.
It has been, I guess, we're taping this in July. And so we've been in the period of COVID for the last 3 months or so. But yes. I got a chance to take a tour with you. You gave me a tour of your new facility back in January of 2020. And I would just like for you to just kind of start off, just share with the listeners and the viewers, what is the Beck Group and what do you guys do?
So the Beck Group is an integrated architecture and construction firm based here in Dallas, Texas. We have offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Tampa, Atlanta, Denver, and Charlotte. And we do also have Beck, Mexico. So we do commercial architecture and construction. We're one of the leading providers of those services. We also do sustainability and things like that as well. You know, gotta go green. And we build and design big buildings. That's what we do for the most part. We're very involved in the community as well because we believe that we're doing work in the community. We should also contribute to that community outside of just, designing and building buildings as well. So we do a lot of philanthropy around our different areas where we work. So that's what we are. We are $1.5 billion company. We were integrated. A lot of companies are either construction or architecture, not integrated where they do both. But we find it's a competitive advantage to offer both services to our clients for a seamless integration process. So we merged with a firm in 1999 and we became an integrated architecture and construction company.
I love it. I could tell that there's an incredible culture with the Beck Group as I was on the tour with you, and I want to, and of course, best places to work company. You've been recognized, so you could tell. But I want to start. I want to just kind of go back. I want to talk to Camille Tate when she started her career. Go back and just share your story. Like, where were you born, and what was that path like to talent acquisition, and where you are today? I would love to hear that story.
Awesome. I love telling this story because it's a path of, just going along life. And I mean, if you talk to a lot of HR and recruiting professionals, they will tell you they just happened to fall into HR and recruiting. And that's exactly what happened to me. But firstly, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm Town, the Temptations, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, the Supremes, Jackson 5. So I had fun growing up in Detroit, Michigan. I loved it. I was, my parents were older. Back then it was considered older. Now it's not. So, my mom and dad were in their 40s when they had my sister and I. I'm a twin, as you know, Bruce. But, growing up around, Detroit and Motown, I think it was one of the best times of my life being in that environment and being around so much music. And to be honest, that music kind of motivates me. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about it, but it kind of has guided me. Themes and just the sounds and the beats have guided me along my career as well. So I grew up in Detroit and I ended up going to Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. My older sister had attended there, and her major was computer science, and I went for a more business information systems major. I'm a recruiter, and I have kind of a technical degree. But I graduated a little bit after September 11th, the great tragedy that happened to our country, and I was supposed to go work for IBM in a technical role in Austin. But after September 11th, they had some layoffs, so I was unable to start my job in the technical capacity at IBM. So I ended up working at Dillard's, Bruce. I was in the women's clothing department at Dillard's selling women's clothing for a year. And then I went on to sell diabetic testing supplies over the phone. You know, those infomercials where you see you can buy your diabetic testing supplies. I stayed there for a little bit. And then I ended up working for my church in an administrative capacity. So I kind of had a few unlikely jobs on my way to recruiting. And then someone in my church, they said, Camille, you have a great personality. And I know you've been in sales, right? Have you ever thought about recruiting for like a staffing company? I know someone who's hiring. And I'm like, no, I've never thought about it before. So I interviewed for a job with Tech Systems, which is, you know, a leading company in the IT staffing space. And I ended up taking a position with Tech Systems in Nashville. And that's how I got to my start in recruiting. So an unlikely path.
Isn't that interesting how life is through twists and turns and connections, yes, and how we just navigate through that, you know, we just never know. I'm just curious, now that you've been like in this role for a long recruiting, you're very good at it.
Thank you, Bruce.
Was there a moment that you said, you know what, this validates that I've really found my purpose, my calling, what I love to do? Was there a time that you just had that epiphany that I'm doing what I want to do?
I think that purpose is, to me, is very fluid. And I feel like every time something happens impactful in my life, I find a new or rejuvenated purpose. But I would say my initial, like, ooh, this is my purpose. This is what I love to do. I have a passion for it. It's my ministry, so to speak. I would say it would be my first recruiting job, because I always thought I'm going to major in this technical major, and then I'm going to go on and I'm going to be in IT, and that's going to be my field of work. But I think that with my personality and me being such an extroverted person and so outgoing and wanting to have fun and enjoy the work that I do and interact with a lot of different people, I think that I was guided to recruiting and I really had a great mentor when I started recruiting that really honed in on things that he saw in me and cultivated those things. And it just brought out so much joy and passion for the craft of recruiting. And yes, when you're in staffing, you have to meet those metrics, you have to make money for the company, but it's about the people and building relationships. And that's where I saw the purpose in it, and I started to enjoy it more.
I love that. I love Dustin Paschal a few weeks ago talked about building on these small moments, right?
Yeah.
And I love how you said that purpose is fluid as well, because there's a season for everything, right?
Yes, it definitely is.
Always looking for those opportunities. I interviewed Tony Bridwell earlier this week, and he talked about that as well. So I'm just, you mentioned something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is mentorship, right? So you had a great mentor. Can you talk about that mentorship, and if there's been other people that have helped like mentor you along the way?
Yeah, I've had so many mentors, and like I mentioned, my first mentor in recruiting, his name is Ian Crockett, and he still is in Nashville. But when I say taking the fire that he saw in me for wanting to do a good job and directing it to building relationships and building those building blocks of rapport as a way to fulfill my duties as a recruiter, that really helped me. And also, I would say he kind of slowly every day pushed me off a cliff. What I mean by is when you get into a new position or a new environment, you can be timid, you can be scared, you can be, afraid of things that you've never done before. And Ian would be the one to say, just do it. Just push me off. Just no warning or anything. Just do it. You're doing this. You're doing this. And sometimes you need that push. He wasn't mean about it or anything like that. He knew that he needed to push me because he saw the greatness and the potential in me. So I will forever, appreciate Ian, because I feel like he made me, just the foundation. I think people can go on and have all of these titles, all of these great positions, but you can only stay in those positions if you have a great foundation. And that's what he created for me. And also, you know, through my career, I had a couple business partners and directors like Saria Gray, Paul Matthews, a couple of those people when I used to work at Redbox. When I was younger, in my 20s, I used to get, that's not right. And I used to have such a fire about me for doing things that are right and, you know, trying to correct people that I thought were wrong. And they would be the ones to rein me in and say, Camille, take a step back. Let's walk through this slowly, and then you can approach the situation. But when you're young and you're full of fire, you just want to go after everything, but there's a tact and there's a polish to everything. Even if you're approaching a situation where something is wrong or it's a matter of conflict or something like that, I think they really kind of rein me in a professional way and kind of gave me the polish that I needed to move forward. I don't think I would be climbing the ladder in recruiting without that, without the reining in when I was younger. And also I have a lot of peers. I don't think that, you know, mentors are just regulated to, you know, people that are over you or people that are in high positions. I have a lot of people, other recruiters, and you know, like Sarah Greenwell, I've known her for years. My sister who's in HR, just a lot of people around me in my space, and I could bounce things off of them and they would give me wholehearted, great advice. So I don't think that, you know, mentors are just these high up people. And then Holly Crowder, you know, that's my current boss and she's our CHRO. Just in business. And when I came into working at Beck, I didn't know anything about architecture and construction. She has 20 years of experience in construction, and I had to be humble and let her mentor me in the ways of our operations, because I can only be a good recruiter at Beck if I understand the business. And so just her imparting her wisdom into me and how things work, she's another big mentor for me as well.
That is absolutely outstanding. I love that. And I love how you shared also your sister. I have a brother that's also in the business. He's been a fantastic mentor for me. And it's amazing how when we, you know, you talked about when we lean in and we're really being open to listening for understanding, how we can grow so much by just being around other people, right?
Right.
I love that. I love that. Well, you know, you're in talent acquisition, and I actually saw this morning. I saw where SHRM had listed that unemployment had dropped to 12%, adding 4.8 million jobs. So that's great for the economy as we start to get back. I'm just curious. So, you know, as a recruiter, you know, what does it take to be a great recruiter? What are some of the qualities that it takes to do what you do?
Authenticity and grit. If you don't have those things, it's unlikely that you will be able to sustain yourself in recruiting. I build relationships with people because I'm genuine and I tell them what's what. And you have to be that. Recruiters are a gatekeeper, and that's even if you're the lowest level of recruiter. Being a recruiter automatically makes you a leader within the company. You're a gatekeeper. You speak to people outside of the company and introduce them to the internal culture, the internal environment. That's a lot of privilege and power to have, you know, in a company if you're not like in a leadership, you know, technically in a leadership role or the C-suite or anything like that. And you have to be authentic when connecting with people. You know, I've been in interviews, you know, as a recruiter in my, you know, prior to Beck and things like that, where recruiters or hiring managers will be like, oh, Camille, what type of artificial intelligence or what type of tools and systems do you use to, you know, find recruits and strategies and things like that? And you know, Bruce, I'm old school. I'm so old school. I understand the need for technologies and ATSs and things like that. But I've seen recruiters are a dime a dozen, and I've seen recruiters that can master finding people, but they can't make the connection. And so recruiting is, you can find people all day long, but the key to recruiting is staying in relationship and building rapport with people and being authentic, and them knowing that, oh, this person really cares about the company. This person really cares about finding the right person to fill this position. And this person is interested in me. So many times recruiters get on the phone and they don't have a conversation with candidates. They just pound questions at them. That's not really building a relationship. You want to find parallels or points where you can connect with the person on a human level. And so if you don't have that, then, recruiting, you can be a recruiter, but I don't know if you would make a, sustainable or long-term recruiter. But I try my best to be as authentic as I can, especially with the candidates that I engage with.
It's fantastic. It's always about people. It's always been about people, and it always will be about people. I talked about that in my book, Find Your Lane. I talked about investing in the people zone. When you invest in people, you just get great returns.
Right. Yeah, you do.
I had my brother-in-law. He's used to be a CEO, and he talked about, it's just people doing business with people. When you really get to know people, when you really show that you care and build those relationships, just good things happen. So I love how you shared that. So so when you're looking at different candidates, how do you know when you have a good candidate? I mean, there's a lot of good people out there. How do you know, like, what do you look for? I think I saw an article, and I think you and Reagan actually wrote an article on the I think it might have been on the career page of the Beck Group. And you had talked about some of those things. Share a little bit about, what do you look for in candidates?
I look for people that put forth effort. I mean, essentially, when you're looking at resumes all day, sometimes I always tell my hiring managers, sometimes you have to look past the resume and find that one thing that to hold on to say, hey, we need to have a conversation with this person. I will tell you that being in recruiting over 15 years, Bruce, most candidates cannot write a good resume. So being a recruiter and you're looking at resumes all day for a position, sometimes, even if the resume isn't great, you have to feel confident in saying, well, the resume may not look as polished or as good as I want it to look, but does this person have the qualifications technically, because that's what we're looking for when we're doing an initial scan of the resume. Does this person have, the minimum qualifications or the experience to, do the job that I'm looking to fill? And if the resume isn't like I want it to be, sometimes those have been the best people I've recruited is, oh, they have a gap in their resume or something. If they have the experience I'm looking for, I still call and have a conversation. That's my job. That's my job to inquire, have a conversation with that person and find out. And so, that takes some time. I could say earlier in my recruiting career, I would just be looking for technical skills. Nope, you don't have it. Oh, you have a gap here and things like that. But you have to understand that people have stories. And if they have a core, group of experience and things on their resume, I give them a call anyway. I look for, of course, the technical side. But when I'm speaking with them on the phone, communication is essential, right? You have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to explain what you've done. So that a lot of times things go wrong in business because people are not communicating well. And so that's one of the key things that we look for here at Beck, and I look for personally is, can this person communicate? I also look for experiences or for candidates to tell me about things where they've been proactive. They don't just do their day-to-day. They don't just, this is my job description, I'm just going to do this because this is what it's assigned to me. You only get better if you jump outside of your comfort zone and you do more than what's expected of you. So that's what I look for in candidates. And I also look for them to have a good, especially if I'm recruiting for a senior level management position and things like that. Can you manage people? Can you interface? So I look for examples. Can you establish, relationships with people? What do your employees say about you? What do people that work alongside of you say about you? So those are just some of the things that I look for when looking for a candidate to work at Beck.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to get some good value out of this conversation, because I was talking with Tony earlier, and he was talking about it's really all about story. And if
Yes.
candidates can figure out a way to share those stories to relate to that job, it seems like they have a much better chance of making impact.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if the recruiter is sharing stories and connecting, I mean, an interview is not just one-sided. I try my best to not make it one-sided. If we can draw some sense of parallel, avoiding the legal pitfalls and things like that, but if we can draw some sort of parallel where you have a story and I have a similar story or something like that where we can connect, I try to do that, because most times when people come in for interviews, or even when they're interviewing on the phone, people are very, very nervous, very, very nervous. And if you make someone comfortable enough, it may break down the walls for them to have a better conversation. And I tell people this all the time when I'm doing interview training. That person, oh, they didn't have good communication skills. Well, on the phone with me, they were great. So did you break down the walls? Did you make them comfortable? Were you warm? Those are some things that you have to do in an interview, because unless you're just amazing at answering questions off the top of your head and things like that, you're going to be nervous speaking to someone you've never spoken to before, and you want something they have, right? You want something they have. So naturally, the candidate will be nervous. So it's important that we also make that person comfortable to speak their minds and to shake the nerves off, where they're able to communicate more effectively in the conversation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know what I love by the way, this is inspiring. I'm just so full right now. One of the things that I love about you and what you said earlier about going above and beyond is that, I was reading the article that you and Reagan had written, and I thought, you didn't have to do that. You did that to help candidates and to help coaching. And one of the things that I saw on there is you do a lot of like internships.
Yes, we
and
do.
You had written down, I just want to share a few things that I wrote down here. You talked about good candidates. If they can do these things right here, they got a really, really good shot to have success. Number one, go above and beyond the call of duty. Number two, show enthusiasm, dedication. Number three, take innovative and creative approaches in their role. Number four, contribute to a positive team morale. Number five, take ownership of projects. And number six, be a great cultural fit for the Beck Group. And I just love how you just went out and you created that content.
Yes.
So what drives that? I mean, that coaching piece of it is, I think for me personally, I'm just seeing, just as we're talking today, it's like that caring spirit, like, hey, I want to do more than just recruit. I want to really coach and shape our culture and to help bring in the best people. Talk a little bit about that.
What drives that is a little bit, going back to a little bit, your one of your first questions you asked me was purpose, right? So I feel like my purpose in life is to use my experience, my knowledge, the gifts and talents that God has given me to share with others. And that's not only here at Beck, that's even outside of work. I love, coaching people and giving them, I don't know if it's the inside track or just what people are looking for, because a lot of people, our recruiting has changed so much, and recruiters and just HR in general, some people hide behind the computer. And I feel like we have to get that information out to people, right? We have to educate people on how it is behind the scenes and how they can take advantage of that information and use it, whether it be for Beck or for another company. I know that what we're looking for is probably not different from, some companies, what we're looking for. We look for, really great talent. Building a building, designing a building, that's a major responsibility. People can get hurt in our industry and things like that. We take all of this very seriously. So I think, to educate people on what a company is looking for, specifically Beck in this instance, is very important. Very important. And I'm just motivated because I would want someone to do the same for me. So, the old adage is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I mean, it's an old phrase, but it rings true throughout everything you do. If you want someone to treat you nice and kind and educate you and give you the 411 on things that are going on, I want to do that same for the community or candidates that are interested in roles with us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love how you frame that, do unto others. And I think that I'm kind of that same way. I've been encouraged so much and I've been helped so much. It makes me want to also help others along the way. And
you do that, Bruce. You do that. When it comes to, you have imparted a lot of wisdom to me, and I learn a lot from you. Just in the time that we've known each other, how you do business, how you connect with people, how your passion for people and educating people and teaching them about leadership and, creating relationships. You do that in your work at Armstrong, and also in what you're doing outside of work, running a parallel and kind of using your gifts and talents on both sides to spread great information to people. Like, that's amazing. So you've, have mentored me since I've known you, just in the conversations that we have and how you treat people and how you connect with people. That's why you're so popular, Bruce. People love you.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that is so nice. We need to give a shout out to Bronwyn Allen and Callie and the high profile group for connecting us. We actually met at one of their leadership meetings. So I'm grateful to get a chance to go and speak there that day. And then of course we met. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
That made my day. So I want to talk about, we talked about, leadership in teams, but I want to talk about leading yourself. And, when we get in leadership, we're leading every day. I mean, there's no days off when it comes to leading ourselves. And I want to try to pull out just something that might help someone else be a better leader. And I'm just wondering, can you share like a daily practice or something you do each day that helps you stay on track and just get better every day?
Well, the first thing I do before I approach my workday is I get in the mindset, I have a positive attitude. You have to start your day with a positive attitude, because whether you're I think that everyone has some degree of leadership, but you have to start your day with a positive attitude. And I do say that because I'm in recruiting, and for the past 15 years, I have to speak with candidates and be excited with them on the phone or in person. And it goes back to authenticity, as I mentioned. I wouldn't be able to do that unless I checked myself, checked my heart at the door. Hey, Camille, you may have had a bad day yesterday, or this went wrong, or that went wrong, but hey, you're at work. You have to interface with people who know nothing about you, about Beck, possibly. You're a representative of the company, and you have to be positive, genuinely. Candidates can sense over the phone if you're being genuine or if you're just being, just giving them the time of day. So that's one of the things I do every day before I come in, and I check myself throughout the day to make sure, hey, Camille, get that attitude in check, put a smile on your face. You're representing Beck. You're representing yourself. So that's one thing I do. Also in meetings and things like that, I try to be as honest and direct as possible. I think that's a big part of being a leader. I know a lot of, and I've interfaced with a lot of people in the past that are leaders, and they're passive aggressive in their approach when it comes to communicating or giving feedback or their opinion. I try to, in my daily dealings, be direct and honest and not beat around the bush. If you have something to say, there's always a way to give constructive direction, constructive criticism or your opinion in a positive way, and be honest about it and not beat around the bush. So that's an aspect of leadership that I cherish. I offer it, and I also want to receive it from others. I listen to music every day while I'm working. If I'm not on the phone, like I said, I grew up in Motown. Music is a part of my life. When I was in college, I could not study without music. When I was getting my master's, I could not do it without music. Every day at work, if I'm not doing something on the phone with the candidate or escorting someone around for an interview, I have music playing at my desk. It motivates me. It gets me all different genres, all different types. It keeps me moving. It keeps me motivated throughout the day. It keeps me in a happy mood. So that's one thing I do as well.
That's fantastic. You are a super positive person, and I can tell why.
I try to be.
So let me. I'm always curious about leaders that do their planning. What's your planning look like? I mean, do you like on the weekends plan your week, or do you? I mean, do you have a system in place? Number one, and number two, do you use a paper calendar, or do you use your phone for scheduling? What's the planning look like?
So, Bruce, I was born in 1980. So I have one foot in I'm super, technology, rah. And on the other hand, I'm paper and pen. So I kind of straddle the fence between both. So, I have mommy brain. I have a 2-year-old. So I have to write things down or I will forget. So I have a to-do list, that paper and pen, old, flip notebook that I use. I write down I have my to-do list and I have a running list. And once I complete it, I check it off. I use Outlook as well, but for me, the comfort comes in the paper and the pen. So I use Outlook a lot. I use Outlook quite a bit. I use technology, I'm familiar with it. I'm good at it. But I just like my paper and pen. I really do. I keep track of all my messages on my notebook. So I'm just old school in that way. And I think I'll forever be that way, having a paper calendar, a paper notebook where I track all my things in addition to technology. For some reason, I don't know. I think technology is going to fail me. So I have to write everything down. But that's a system that I use. I don't. Monday morning, I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? But recruiting and HR, we deal with variables, right? People. You never know what your day is going to look like because, I may have emails or I may be pulled into meetings for, anything regarding people. So, I have my daily list, written down and things like that, but you have to be flexible. In recruiting and HR, you have to be flexible. You can't get upset when your day is thrown off. You just kind of have to find a way to fit in, weave those things into, the ad hoc activities that you may have going on throughout the day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love how you talked about flexibility and adaptability because a lot of people,
yes.
They get overwhelmed. They're like, oh
yes.
my gosh, I've got all these things to do. And it's about, yes, it's good to have a list, but you really got to break it down and manage the priorities
right.
along the way. So
yes.
this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm curious. And I gave you a few questions before our conversation to kind of think about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I gave you this one, so I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. But
were
you ever given some advice? Whether it was from your friends or someone in the community or someone in the workplace. I know you mentioned Holly's been great. Have you
mm-hmm.
ever been given some advice that you share with others because it was such great advice or along your path, something that's really helped you, and what advice do you give to others along the way to help them, just to get better, level up?
So I guess this could apply to this, and there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs, right? Because we're in the age of COVID-19, a lot of people lost their jobs, and the market is more saturated with candidates as opposed to the jobs that are available. And I gave this advice a couple days ago, because I was speaking with someone and they were like, I keep getting no after no after no. And I told them, don't let rejection tell you that you're not great. Every day, during our lives, we are going to experience rejection and we're going to experience a no. But that doesn't take away from the qualities and the things that you have to offer others. And so I think sometimes, in our lives, we encounter situations where it's like, it's just draining us. It's bringing us down because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But that doesn't mean you're not good. That doesn't mean you're not great. It's just wasn't, the opportunity for you at that time, but you're where you're supposed to be. But don't let rejection take away from the greatness that you possess.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I know somebody out there is needing to hear that right now, and that's going to lift them up. I think that's great advice. So thank you. So we got 5-10 minutes to go. I want to get into the part of the show where I call it's time to accelerate.
Okay.
And so first question I have is, do you like to, would you rather read a book or would you rather listen to a podcast?
Both, but I have a podcast, so I have been more into podcasts lately.
I want you to talk about that podcast, because I know we talked earlier about you were planning on starting it. I think you have a family member involved. Share a little bit about your podcast. I want to hear more.
Okay, so it's the Career Salon with the HR Twins, and I have a twin sister, and she has been in HR, not recruiting. She'll tell you she hates recruiting. She's been on the HR, people, employee relations side for 17 years. So it was so weird how that happened. We both ended up in the HR realm, and we always want to help people. We always want to educate, kind of like what the content that I put out that Reagan and I put out for Beck in terms of tips on what we're looking for and things like that. It's kind of, like that, and also talking to people in unique positions in their career and things like that. But that's what we're kind of doing, just her and I, and coaching people on like their performance reviews or, how they should approach conflict resolution or things like that. And then also on just unique careers and unlikely leaders. That's kind of what we do. We want to, I guess, give people, like I said, the inside track. What goes on behind the scenes? What do you need to know to be a better professional?
Oh man, I can't wait to listen. So how many episodes have you put out, and how often do you put out an episode?
So we have us weekly on Wednesdays,
okay.
And we actually have 13 episodes.
What?
Ready.
That's fantastic. I think
13 episodes.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man. You know what I love is that whenever people talk about, like I think we were having lunch and you were sharing this, and I call it a dream. And when people have dreams and just they have things to look forward to, and then all of a sudden they're doing that, it's so fulfilling. So it's really cool. And you sound like y'all are having fun.
We are. I think that we want to kind of demystify HR because, when I was growing up and you read about HR, order takers, secretaries, administrative, but also the gatekeepers for corporate. Ooh, big scary HR. Don't go to HR. They're not going to be on your side. We are wanting to challenge our industry and challenge our peers to say, we need to take the scales off of HR. We are human resources. So it's connecting with people. It's, like I said in the interview process, making people comfortable to be able to talk to you We want to empower our industry, like I said, our peers, and also people on the other side of the desk to be engaged with HR, be engaged with recruiting, and basically, take this opportunity to call our peers on the carpet and say, hey, we know that AI is coming, technology is taking over, but we're still human resources. And you have to remember that every day that you go to work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell me the name of the show again.
It's the Career Salon with the HR Twins.
I love that. I'll put that in the show notes so people can go to that and listen to that. And I'll definitely be tuning in. And, okay. So a couple other things. Favorite food. You got a favorite food?
Seafood boils.
What?
Yes, I can eat them every day.
That's fantastic. Okay, how about hobbies? I guess podcasting. Any other? I mean, you've got a 2-year-old. So what hobbies do you have?
I love, connecting with my family. That's just what I do, every day with my husband and my little 2-year-old, and working on external projects, using my gifts in HR and talent acquisition, cooking, entertaining. Haven't been able to do that as much because of COVID, but I love entertaining and cooking for my friends and family. I just love that. It's a currency that I love to give. As far as connect, it's all about connecting. And I feel like family and friends connect through food. And so I love cooking and entertaining and listening to music in the backyard by the pool with friends. I love that. I would do it every weekend, every day of the weekend if I could.
How about, that's great. How about traveling? Are there any places you'd love to travel without, post-COVID?
Anywhere with the beach and a drink with an umbrella, I'm there. Yeah, so.
I absolutely love that. I love that. Okay, so I got a final question for you, Camille.
Yes.
And this is a question that I wanted to ask. I've been asking all of our guests, and I want to talk about if Camille, 10 years older, if Camille 10 years older were to show up on your front door today, what is she telling you?
Don't try to break the mold, be the mold. That's what an older Camille would say. Don't try to break the mold, you be the mold.
I love that.
Being true to yourself, being authentic, and you'll always be where you're supposed to be.
That's fantastic. This is, man, I'll tell you, the time goes so fast. I could do this all day long with you.
Me too.
Yeah, this has been great. Listen, you always put a smile on my face, and I can tell why that you're so good at what you do because you care so much. You just enjoy life and conversation, and you use the word connecting many times on this podcast. You're so good at that. And so I applaud you for that. So if people want to know more about Camille Tate, if they want to learn more how to follow you, can you share how they can connect with you?
Yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a recruiter, so that's where I live online. I live on LinkedIn. So I'm, at Camille H. Tate with the Beck Group on LinkedIn. I mean, I wrote a status a while ago about people sending messages to recruiters and recruiters not responding. If people want to connect with you, you want to make sure you connect with people because that's our job, right? It's building relationships. You never know. So I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. People send me messages all the time. I'm always happy to reply and connect and, have a phone call. So yeah, on LinkedIn, that's primarily where people can find me.
Yeah, excellent. I'll put that in the show notes and also put in about the podcast and some of the other things we talked about. This has been a pleasure. And I got to tell you, you are definitely driving in the leadership lane.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
I appreciate our friendship and just you being a part of this show. And I just want to say thank you and wish you continued success, my friend.
Thank you. It's an honor. I'm so glad you have this show. It's so needed, and you are just a joy and a light wherever you go.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Bruce.